Goldstein is also an editor, copywriter, and journalist. His debut poetry collection, How to Bury a Boy at Sea, appeared from Stillhouse Press in 2022, copies of which are here available. His poetry has been nominated for a Best of the Net Award and has appeared in South Florida Poetry Journal, Jet Fuel Review, the Laurel Review, 2 Peach, Awakened Voices, the Indianapolis Review, and elsewhere. By day, he works as an editor and copywriter for a large tech company. He lives in Washington, D.C. Please welcome Phil Goldstein.
Can y'all hear me? All right. Just for context before I begin, so you're all braced, my book is very heavily related to child sex abuse, so just providing that for context. What I'm going to try to do is just give a good arc, hopefully not go on for too long. So I'm not going to pause to give context for each poem, but you'll hopefully see the arc as we go along. This is, we never went to the beach when I was a boy. He and I are traveling to an alien shore alone. He commands me to get into our tiny boat. My feet stay stuck, stakes buried in the sand. The waves roll in, briny and filled with seaweed, water that makes me gag when I get washed underneath. He pushes me aboard, then clambers in himself, eager, a bird learning to fly. Gulls cry in the gray blanket overhead. He has the oars. We are rowing now. Fragile, to my parents. I get the feeling still that you two think he is a fragile egg and I am a rock. Unbreakable, unshakable, golden. That's what our name means, from the German, Goldstone. Let me tell you, I was not as resilient as he thought. I was not an adult trapped in a child. I was not as resilient as he thought. I was not an adult trapped in a child's body. I was a child trapped in a child's body, unable to move. Why can't you see I crack and cry and break and bleed? I am the egg. He is the fox, scratching at the tiny doorway, looking for more, hungry. Growth. I could tell the way he touched me was strange. He told me that it was normal. How can something that felt so good be wrong? We did the normal routines, washing our hands, clearing our plates, rising for the Shema out in the open. We face in the direction of the ancient walls, turning toward the light of Adonai. We are a holy congregation, twisting ourselves to be in the brightness. We stand as one, no separation between our bodies and our lips, unified in the voice that we call out with in that soaring sanctuary. In the open fields, everyone can see how you grow, how you take in sunlight and breathe. The two of us became intertwined when nobody could see. Our roots and limbs grew in the darkness. I didn't know then that foxgloves and violets bloom in shade. What is it like to be a foxglove, to be a violet? What a bed takes in. The things I've seen would make me tear my eyes out if I had any. What I felt from so many years ago still stains me deep in every fiber of my being, no matter how many times I am washed. I saw a boy, thin of frame, drawn into my center by a larger one, stronger, who pushed that little one's head under my folds, and there it stayed for quite some time, bobbing like a cork in the Atlantic. All these years later, I want to swallow myself whole for letting it just happen right on top of me, for not shouting, for not even breathing a word. How does one recover from witnessing such pain? Will I ever tell you, dear reader, of all that I know? Can you wring it out of me like water or semen? Will I collapse in a heap, damp at your feet? Can you stretch me in the rack, tortured and taught? Even then, what am I? Certainly not what you see and touch every day. Surely, nothing so neat and serene and soft could hold so much inside. The last act. On a cold April New Jersey Saturday, I was consumed by a bad case of backstage jitters at the wedding of the brother who I once slept under in a bunk bed. I knew it was time to use all those years of practice for this one final play, this role of a lifetime, to toast my brother, hug him as if he were my brother. The audience sat rapt and waited. I had practiced my lines for weeks, a pantomime of affection. I knew which marks to hit, when to pause for laughter. Champagne glimmered in 200 glasses under the ballroom's bright clique lights. I began my performance, slipped back to the rhythms that governed my life for 20 years. I dipped our childhood in amber, elided the truth in anything dark, focusing on summers spent playing kickball in makeshift diamonds. Then came the crucial turn. I extolled my brother's virtues with such seeming sincerity, his work ethic, empathy, generosity, humility, and love. I choked back black tar. That was the last time I stood on stage in service of someone else's story. The island. One day, we spotted an island, a sandy cloud shimmering in the sunlight like glass. There were a group of boys playing with each other on the beach, the way boys play, losing track of time and laughing until doubled over on their knees. I wished I could shatter our boat by crying out and then swim to shore to be with them, to be one of them, to be just a boy once again. That would be a dream. That would be an endless summer day. But the boys in the sand receded from view as the sun dipped beneath the horizon. It was then that I remembered we were our own island and always would be. A note to my younger self. You can't be saved, not now. You must hang on until the day you are strong enough to climb out. You can't be blamed for staying beneath the water. There, quiet felt like peace. You must navigate a thread so small it's practically invisible, the line between what you feel and what you can say, pushing up a jagged wall everywhere you tread. You are just a boy. You are just a boy. You are just a boy. You can't be anything but a boy. Gibraltar. I see you now in the hazy veil of painted twilight, a shadow but not a terror. You were the monster of my childhood whose hand-me-downs once kept me warm. Sometimes the flash and force of memory shoots me straight back, deeper than I want to go. The way I lie down in a bed is enough to take me to the times when you led me to lie with you. I ache the way a tree must ache when it is chopped and left to stand, gashed open in a summer thunderstorm. I stand now in a field with the sun bleeding away to violet. I stand knowing what I have endured, what I can endure. I am a promontory, gauzy in sunshine, the sea lapping green below. You are a shadow passing over my face, a cloud, a memory. What wakes a mother in the middle of the night? I have been forced to choose between my jaw and my tongue, my eyes and my nose. Which wound will I create in my body? Which hole will I make permanent and glaring? Has the sky ever been so much like me? Out here in the desert, devoid of light pollution, the Milky Way is a smoky fissure curling overhead, a wound in the sky, bleeding light. What can a mother do to stop her sons from hurting one another? What can a mother do to unmake a tear in the side of a continent? How do you repair that kind of gash? Amid the cacti and armadillos, the earth shudders every time I move. It vomits dirt, the kind shoveled on a casket after the prayers have been intoned. The sky will never stop bleeding down. Just a few more. The sound of blood flowing through me, for Jenny. The trees drip leaves from their mouths, goldenrod, oxblood, apricot, ruby. They fall like snow as we crunch our way higher. The wind rushes through the trail, a breath of October that finds its way into the small space between our intertwined fingers. We are climbing, trudging, stopping, walking together. There is no one else who knows the rhythm of the way I hike like you do. No one who knows I stumble like a klutz on rocks sometimes. I march ahead at other intervals, jumping over tree roots buried in a pile of honey-colored foliage. You chide me, we laugh, we plow on. There is no one else I would rather be with at the peak as the breeze licks our cheeks. There is no one else who knows what it means for me to reach a summit, any summit. You do. You know the sound my heart makes as we take in the view of the valley. Our wedding, for Jenny, my wife. The sand and the sea glittering, lilies shaking themselves gently in the wind, the sun reflecting off the gulf as it has for millennia, a chuppah bathed in its glow, rising proudly with its crystals fluttering in the breeze between the flowers, glistening with rainbows as the tallit cast their shadows over us, creating a dimple of cool surrounded by the glare of the late afternoon. We place rings on each other's fingers, intoning ancient Hebrew, Ani Lido Di Vido Di Li. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. The sand and the sea meeting as waves recede and return, rising and falling, constant. Just two more. We are the flowers in that good earth. Buried deep in the haunting of our bones lies soft and still the ones we once were and knew and feared for in foreign beds and hollow, hungry houses. We survivors sometimes wonder how we got out alive at all. We know, of course, that there can be a murder scene without blood. Those are the tricky cases, the ones that confound hard-boiled detectives for decades. They rot in the sun like forgotten meat. We know all of this. We are the connoisseurs of such delicacy. We have felt it become an immutable part of our being, like a hernia scar or broken tibia that aches in October rainstorms. But we are so much more than what we buried. We are the testaments to the fact that gates can rust and not break, valleys can yield good earth following avalanches, kisses can be reclaimed for ourselves, hollowed out hearts can be refilled, remade, renewed. How to bury a boy at sea. Above us, the sky lost all its natural hue and roared with a force that shook us from bow to stern. The time for splintering drew near. The lightning flashed. For the first time, he looked scared. It was an expression I knew so well, having seen it in the water staring back at me for years, through every kind of weather. The waves barked and the wind laughed, for we were children adrift and aimless like a bubble, one whose very being could be snuffed out amid the casual violence swirling around us. Then it happened. The ship began to crack apart. We were separated, truly, for the first time in memory, a passenger watching an ancient homeland fade from view. I was the one who shattered the boat. I was sick of the salt water slowly poisoning my cells, depleting me day after day. First I whispered, then I spoke, after I shouted and howled a ferocious tune. He had caged me here, and I had agreed to be caged. I thought cages were safe. They're not. They're merely a tool used to keep us from being in our natural state. He staggered, grasping for me or anything to hold on to, but scooped up only rain-swept air and disappointment, precursors to his ultimate watery end. I was floating on the wreckage as he gulped his last. I didn't move. I didn't have to. All I had to do was be. Then he disappeared, a sun forever hiding behind clouds. There I stood at last alone with only one more body to shed, this boy who lived a lifetime inside of me, carrying a greater burden than anyone should bear. This boy slipped out of my skin, billowy and white, and closed his eyes in peace, having shown valor beyond measure. I kissed his forehead, then smoothed his hair and thanked him for living long enough to see this day, for being both a boy and something more, something sublime. He and the boat sank down, and I became enveloped in the water, in grief, in joy, in song. I started to swim back to shore in the light of the morning.